Welcome to another episode of Mac Motivate. In this episode, some execs and directors will be giving you tips on how to succeed in uni. I hope you can all benefit from this, and let's get on with the video. The first tip I have for you guys is to create a to-do list with all the tasks you need to do, including for school, work, extracurriculars, and even your own personal things. This will help you stay organized, and once everything you need to do is written down, it's no longer in your head, so you can focus better. The next tip is to use a calendar to keep track of all your important dates. So in the beginning of each semester, you will be getting a course outline for all your courses, which includes your assignment deadlines and your midterm dates. So I would highly recommend inputting all these dates into your calendar as soon as possible so that you are aware of your tasks and you can schedule things accordingly. I would highly recommend using Google Calendar for this because you can always make changes to it and it can sync across all your devices. The next tip I have for you is to create a weekly schedule with all your tasks for each day. I like to do this on Sunday evening so that I am well prepared for the week ahead. Think about all the commitments you may have, whether that's your class timings, your work sessions, your meetings, or anything else that you may have, and schedule that in for each day of the week. Schedule yourself to have your tasks completed a day in advance, so even if you do fall behind, you still have enough time to complete those tasks. Again, I would really recommend using Google Calendar for this because it allows you to create events, tasks, or reminders and gives you the option of sending yourself notifications. First off, we will be talking about developing good study habits. The Prophet, peace be upon him, prayed to Allah to grant abundance to his ummah in the early mornings. The first tip I have for you guys is to make use of these early mornings and make it a habit to study during these times. I know many of us don't have the best sleeping routines because of quarantine, but as school begins, we should try to sleep earlier and wake up earlier, or even stay up after Fajr. You will start to notice a difference in your life and there will be so much more barakah in your time and work. The next tip is to try to understand what techniques help you study better and implement these into your life. For example, what kind of environment are you more productive in? Do you like to work on one task for long periods of time, or do you like to switch it up? Do you prefer to study alone or with a group of friends? Understanding what helps you study better will help you maximize your time and do better in school.
The next tip is having good habits when it comes to your health. Your health pretty much makes up your whole life. So what are some ways you could build a positive relationship when it comes to your school and your health? Number 1, skip the unhealthy snacks. Your brain is so used to these unhealthy snacks that it gets a satisfaction. But you could also do that with healthy foods like veggies, oats, nuts, and all those sort of things. Yes, it doesn't sound fun, but it will give you a longer life, a healthier life, and also will allow you to perform well in your school. Number 2, stay hydrated. I don't mean drinking 5 cups of coffee a day. I know we all do this, but what I mean is drinking plenty of waters. This builds your immune system, this allows you to concentrate well, and automatically boosts up your performance at school. Number 3, don't skip your meals. This is so easy to do it. We always do this when we're stressed out. But don't do that because this can result into exhaustion, tiredness, and it could reduce the level of your performance at school. Number 4 is to make sure that you work out and exercise. And I don't mean getting a toned body or a fit body. That comes with it. But exercise in general is such a good thing for yourself. It keeps you active, it keeps you motivated, and you feel fresh and good about yourself. And number 5 is to get adequate amount of sleep. Without sleep, you're going to be really tired, exhausted, and I know it's a very, very common habit that we have at university, but you're less likely to do well if you don't sleep properly.
I'd like to stress the importance of using practice tests as a studying tool. So practice tests help you retain information for a much longer period of time rather than if you try to memorize information by just sitting and reading in your textbook and highlighting what you think is important, or rather just rewriting your notes over and over again, which is a passive form of learning. So using practice tests where you actually apply your knowledge is a much better form of learning and will help you retain the information for much longer. So say for example you have a formula and you just stare at it in a book and try to memorize it, versus if you actually use the formula within a question and practice how to use it, you'll remember that for much longer. And another benefit of practice tests is that they help you realize what you've studied versus what you haven't and what you know. So if you have no difficulty doing questions and you're going through them pretty easily, that means you've probably learned that material pretty well. Versus if you have difficulty doing questions, that means there's probably some gaps in your learning within those subject areas, and you should probably spend more time and energy on that specific chapter and fill in those content gaps that you have. One more thing that I'd like to talk about is online quizzes in university. So in university, what people usually do for these quizzes is that they have messenger group chats for each of the courses, and people send pictures of the right answers to the quizzes in those group chats, or you can just find them online by Googling them. And while this may be beneficial in the short term, it's actually very negative for the long term because it doesn't help you learn the material as you're going along within the course. So what ends up happening is that you cram the night before the midterm or the night before the exam, and cramming is not a very efficient way to study. You'll actually retain the information much longer and much better if you actually practice those quizzes as you go along and learn the material within the course timeline.
In university, forming connections is very important. Whether you form them with a small group of people or a larger network, it is something that you will have to do eventually if you wish to succeed at university. So forming connections with your teaching assistants and your professors is very important, especially when you're in need of help, because really that's what they're there for. They're there to obviously teach you, but as well to offer help and support. And this may seem intimidating at first, but after a while you kind of get used to it, because most, if not all, are really nice and they're really willing to help if they can.
Another really important thing for university is to always have a study buddy or a friend in each of your classes, not just to study together or to sit together and lecture, but also if one of you ever needs to miss a class, you can always get missed lecture notes off of each other.
In addition to that, group work is something that you're going to encounter so many times throughout your university experience, whether you're in first year or in fourth year, or even a PhD student really. And so if you find that you don't really know anyone in a course, do not fret, because in those classes, again, there are lots of other students just like you who don't know anyone and would be willing to form a group with you and with other students as well. That being said, when you do have the group, you may come into some challenges and you may face some challenges, because group work at any stage in life, whether in high school or university, is very can be challenging. And so if you find that you're having problems with your group, make sure that you are informing your teaching assistants or your professors, because first of all, they won't know if you're having problems because they're not always going to be with you while you're doing your group work. Most of the time you will do your group work outside of the lecture hall, and so your professors won't really know if you're facing any problems unless you talk to them. So being able to do that as well is very important, because group work is inevitable. It's something that you're just going to have to overcome. And once you have reached out to your professors or your teaching assistants and they can't really do anything at that point, the most you can say is that, you did your part, and, just leave the rest up to Allah and pray for the best. But brighter side of that is that now going forward, you would know what type of people they are, so you would avoid working with them in the future, and you would know what type of people you want to be in your group. So forming connections, highly recommend.
Another point to consider in succeeding in university is to get involved through extracurricular activities. Figure out something that you're passionate about and get involved in that club. For example, if you love accounting, get involved in the Degree Accounting Association. There's so many varieties of clubs that you can get involved in. But however, as a first year, don't stress yourself into getting involved into many clubs. Don't be like, I want to be an exec on 5 different clubs. No, calm yourself down and do a self-assessment. Because a lot of incoming first years, they feel pressured to get involved because they were involved in high school. However, in university, the life is different. Figure out your routine and figure out your academia. Put your school first, then once you have your routine down, decide on what you want to get involved. However, make sure you get involved in one that benefits you both in this dunya and in the hereafter, so you can please Allah Azza wa Jal as well.